This is Access Your Inner Divine, where I help you understand how your intuition actually communicates so you can trust your own inner guidance. I'm Danielle Gray.
So, how does your soul communicate with you? Today, I'm going to teach you about the 5 natural intuitive sensing styles and how to discover yours. Many people believe that intuition is something mystical or rare or reserved for psychic individuals. But in reality, your intuition, or what some of you may call your inner guidance, your higher self, or soul communication, is already speaking to you every single day. The real question is not whether your intuition is communicating. The real question is, how does it communicate with you specifically? Because intuition doesn't speak in just one language. It communicates through perception, through inner senses, through subtle impressions, through awareness. And once you understand your natural intuitive sensing style, self-trust becomes significantly easier and more grounded. So, different people receive intuitive information in different ways. This is often referred to as an intuitive sensing style or intuitive perception channels. You might resonate strongly with one or experience a blend of several. So, the first one is visual intuition or inner sight. This one's often referred to as clairvoyance. It's visual intuition that is the ability to receive guidance through mental imagery and symbolic perception. So it's not always seen outside of yourself. It's not seeing external images, like a ghost, for example. Although I have heard that that does happen, it's just incredibly rare. That's mostly seen on TV or movies. So it in fact, like for most people, it shows up very subtly. So, for example, you might see mental images during meditation. You might receive symbolic dreams, notice meaningful patterns or synchronicities that are visual in nature. So, for example, seeing a certain number on a license plate or a phrase on a billboard. You might visualize outcomes or scenarios in your mind. So sometimes this can look as simple as imagining a scene in your mind that feels meaningful or even emotionally charged. Your inner vision becomes the language your intuition uses if that is the one that is the most strong for you. The second one is auditory intuition or inner hearing. Auditory intuition, sometimes called clairaudience, is not usually external sound. It is internal. This often shows up as inner thoughts that feel wiser or calmer than your normal thinking, sudden phrases or insights that feel guided, song lyrics that resonate deeply at the exact right moment and have a deep meaning for you, or a quiet inner voice that feels neutral and grounded. And honestly, most of the time, it will be in your own voice. But a key distinction here is that intuitive thoughts often feel less reactive and more steady than anxious or overthinking thoughts. They tend to feel clear, concise, and emotionally balanced. The third is emotional and sensory intuition, or feeling-based perception. Often known as clairsentience, this is one of the most common intuitive sensing styles. This is when guidance is received through physical sensations like goosebumps, warmth, tension shifts, emotional impressions, energy sensitivity to people or environments, and if you're an empath, this is likely going to be your strongest intuitive sense. And then there are sudden feelings that seem to arrive rather than originate from your current mood. You may feel something before you can logically explain it. For example, a strong sense of comfort around a decision, a heaviness or a resistance towards something that is misaligned for you, or even just emotional waves that carry insight rather than confusion. And in this sense, your body becomes a communication channel for inner guidance. The next one is instant knowing or inner cognition. Claircognizance, as it's sometimes called, or intuitive knowing, is often the most misunderstood and intuitive sense. This is when you suddenly know something without reasoning. A decision feels internally certain. Insight appears fully formed without any analysis. And with this one, you can't explain how you know, you just do. There is no mental image, there's no strong emotion, there's no inner voice. It's just a piece of clarity. This style of intuition is especially common in analytical or introspective individuals who value internal awareness. Now, this one's a little bit strange, and it's not very common, but smell and taste impressions, or sensory recall intuition. While less frequently discussed, intuition can also communicate through sensory memory. For example, imagining the taste of a familiar food very vividly, recalling a scent that's linked to a memory or an insight, or sensory impressions that trigger intuitive reflection. In intuitive development and perception psychology, this is often tied to deep memory recall and symbolic association rather than literal external sensations. So now we're going to do a simple exercise that will help you discover your own strongest intuitive sense. So before we begin, I would love for you to take a slow, deep breath and just exhale out. Now I want you to allow your mind to settle into a neutral, blank state. Don't force it, just let it be calm. Now I want you to imagine this. I want you to close your eyes, and I want you to picture a frog. And I want you to pause and observe your very first perception. Do you see the frog jumping in your mind? If so, that's visual intuition or inner sight. Do you feel a texture, a sensation, or some kind of emotional reaction? That is a feeling-based intuition. Do you hear a sound like a ribbit internally? Then that is auditory intuition. And if you simply know what the frog is doing without imagery at all, that's inner knowing. And if you experience multiple senses at once, that is integrated intuitive style. So that's everything. And there is no right or wrong response. Your first natural perception is often the clearest indicator of how your intuition prefers to communicate for you. Now, this is really important. Your intuitive senses can work together. Many people assume that they must have only one intuitive style, but that's not true. It is extremely common for intuitive perception to be layered. For example, you may see an image and feel an emotion simultaneously. You may have a knowing accompanied by a subtle physical sensation. Or you may even hear an inner phrase while visualizing in a symbolic scene. This doesn't mean that your intuition is unclear. It means that it is integrated. So my final reflection here is that intuition is personal and it's not performative. One of the biggest misconceptions in spiritual and intuitive development is the belief that intuition must look dramatic, visual, or extraordinary. But in reality, intuition is often very, very quiet. It's subtle, it's personal, and it's grounded. Your soul does not communicate in the loudest way possible. It communicates in the way that you are naturally wired to perceive. And when you stop forcing how intuition should appear and start observing how it already appears, then your self-trust and your self-confidence will begin to strengthen organically. And that is where real intuitive development begins, not by forcing abilities, but by recognizing the inner language that has been there all along. Now, if you're curious about which intuitive sense is strongest for you, inner sight, inner hearing, feeling, or instant knowing, you can explore this much more deeply with my free self-discovery guide, and it's called What is Your Natural Intuitive Sensing Language? This guided PDF includes simple experiential exercises, reflective prompts, and a short perception scene designed to help you recognize how your intuition naturally communicates without forcing visualization or overthinking the process. It's something that can be completed in, maybe less than an hour. So you can find the link to this free download in this episode's description so you can begin identifying your intuitive style in a grounded, self-trust focused way. And I really want to thank you for listening. I hope this podcast episode has helped you begin to understand what your own intuitive sensing style is. So thank you, and I hope you have an amazing day.